Welcome to the SkillRanch. This podcast is designed to equip entrepreneurs, professionals, and consultants with skills to impact tomorrow's work environment. Now here's your host, Bilal.
Hi, this is Bilal Wasim and welcome to the SkillRanch. Today we are joined by Trevor Poplar, Managing Director at 50,000 Foot Incorporated. Trevor spends his days helping independent consultants and small consulting firms grow and sustain their business through different stages of a consulting lifecycle. Trevor is an experienced sales executive in all facets of solution selling to B2B clients, partnership acquisition, customer service, and training. He is truly passionate about growing salespeople, creating a great culture, surpassing targets, designing and implementing great strategic plans, and creating best-in-class partnerships and moving results to the next level. Hi, Trevor. Welcome to our podcast, and it's great to have you here today. How are you
Well,
doing today?
I'm doing great, Bilal. Thank you. And I'm excited to participate in the podcast and talk a little bit about sales today.
I'm very excited to learn from you today, and thanks for taking time out to talk to us today.
Oh,
So
no
let,
problem.
so let me begin with what was your motivation and drive to become a sales professional?
Yeah, my motivation actually came at a very young age. I love the day-to-day business of sales. I've always been interested in meeting new people, addressing problems and the needs of people, and I find that exciting and fun. Bilal, it goes back to when I was very young. My parents and grandparents, my grandparents owned an orchard, and on that orchard, they had me work the cold cellar and sell apples. And that kind of dates me a little bit, but that's where I started learning about sales and selling apples to people. And from that point on, it's just been a number of different opportunities to sell and learn different approaches. In high school, I worked at a stereo store selling audio equipment, and that was always fun. And then it developed into more complex roles as I left university and got into the working world. So it's from a young age, I've always enjoyed those sales interactions, and it's what wakes me up in the morning and motivates me. Um, I, you know, I think a lot of people, when they think of a sales professional, they think of just one vein of individuals giving you a phone call and trying to sell you a product. But sales is actually much broader than that. And everyone who has been an entrepreneur or innovated a product or is starting a business is a salesperson, and everybody in that business is a salesperson selling their beliefs of the value of a product or a business. And so I think it's exciting, and what had motivated me to become a sales professional is the idea that people can interact and find solutions for each other.
Thank you, Trevor. That seems extremely interesting. And in your life that you just mentioned, you've encountered a lot of sales roles. And for a person who wants to go into the field of sales, what are some of those types of roles that they might encounter during your career, and what would they look like?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let me go through my career, and it's categorized into four different buckets, I would say, of type of sales roles. The first sales role that you actually probably encounter is a sales support role. And those are roles that are not obviously initially looked at when you think of sales roles, but sales support roles are very important. And those roles are helping individuals execute their day-to-day sales operations. And so that's probably traditionally where you start. Past that, you move into, or at least I did, into an inside sales role. That's where you're within a business making outbound calls or receiving inbound client calls, and you're working through a sales process with them. And then you progress to outside sales, where you're out in the street and you're knocking on doors and having meetings and enjoying the life of being on the road. And as a salesperson, There's opportunities to get out and meet people in different locations and regions. And then I developed into a partnership sales capacity, and that was building relationships with other organizations, aligning our businesses, and trying to sell to a shared customer so that we could expand our reach and create sales capacity and channels beyond your normal core business. What that does is then allows you to choose which type of sales role you want, progress through sales, learn the business, and then in terms of the types of roles, etc., it all just depends on your target customer. You can focus on business to business, you can focus on business to customer selling, and then in turn, like I did, focus on alliance or partnership sales. So those are kind of the buckets or the sales types that I've encountered in my career.
Okay, so that makes you a very well-rounded sales professional. I was going through your profile, and the last two roles, as you mentioned, are around building partnerships. So let's take an example of a person who would like to do a sales that is around building partnerships with companies. So what are some tips that you would give that person to succeed in this type of a role?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so the most important tip that you take in building partnerships is learning to analyze the ease of alignment. What do I mean by that is, does the partner's core function and actions make it easy for a transition that will resonate quickly with your shared customers?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're building a partnership and that partnership has a very noticeable, very reasonable discussion path for partners to have, and that alignment is easy to identify, then the likelihood of a strong partnership is there. Okay, so that one tip is very important. A lot of the times you look at the size of an opportunity and you think that size is going to be something that'll drive great results. But if there's no ease of alignment, then that partnership won't have the success you believe it could have. The other tip that comes to mind right now, Bilal, is making sure that you understand each other's sales models, our sales alignments, and who would be interacting in that partnership. A lot of the times, errors come when there's a misalignment within sales models between partners. And so you want to make sure that you understand who within each organization will be delivering the partnership information to the shared customer. And if you don't understand that alignment, if that model is not created correctly, then that is also a place in which partnerships can not succeed. So those are the two tips that come to mind. Make sure that there's ease of alignment. Don't look at it from the opportunity size, look at it from the way in which a conversation could mature and create itself, and make sure that you understand each other's sales models so that you're housing the discussions in the right spot.
Thank you so much for those tips, Trevor. And I see that you seems to be extremely interested in partnership. And I suppose building our own startup, the value of developing these partnerships are of paramount importance. So could you please share a bit of overview what your recent startup 50,000 foot is all about?
Yeah, absolutely. It is about partnership. It's about identifying an industry or a profession, which is independent consultants and small consulting firms, and helping them find ways to sustain and grow their business throughout their life cycle. So this actually business started, I'm an identical twin. Myself, I'm Trevor, but my identical twin is Trent. And over the last 20 plus years, he spent his career building out an independent consulting business. And watching him build that business and seeing what hurdles he encountered, meeting a number of different members of his network it came to light that there was an opportunity for us to build a business that supported this industry, supported them through hurdles, helped them become competitive, and find them partners that can make their business operate better and increase their purchasing power. There is a growing community of independent consultants, growing at least 8% year over year in North America, and globally. We're looking at millions of independent consultants. And as automation and the gig economy and all of those already exist in the market, drive people to different career paths, the consultant industry is growing, and we know we have the tools to help them, and the networking community to support them and make like they feel like they're a part of a profession that's growing. So that was the idea behind the business, but it really is to the core, as you said, Bilal, being a partner to them and helping them find solutions that fill the gaps that keep their business sustainable.
Mm-hmm. Building a startup, I feel when I talk to different individuals, it's a dream of everyone. Everybody would like to be an entrepreneur in their life. And once you start a startup, you don't have that kind of financing to support each and every type of role that you might need in a corporation. So at an early part of a startup, what is the value of having a good sales team for a startup? And what are your thoughts around it?
So that's a good question. So a good sales team is immeasurable, but it's immeasurable once you get to a certain point. Okay, so if it's a startup point where you're not ready for commercialization, you're not ready to go to market, and then the investment in sales is a little too early. And a lot of businesses make that mistake, which is when they're in the development stage, they go out and they try and find a sales team. And because they're not developed and ready for commercialization, their sales resources can just not be productive. So my advice is, as an entrepreneur, don't invest in the sales piece till the development is at a point where it's at least at the minimal viable production stage, but I would say a little bit farther. Do the sales work yourself. But as soon as you're ready for commercialization and you can invest in the sales team, that is so paramount to the growth of your business. And often as an entrepreneur, you spend time on the inner workings, the operations of a business, and you fail to see the value of getting a sales team that brings in those customers and ultimately revenue for you. What it does is it expedites your results. A good sales team, a good sales individual can dramatically support you in getting your brand growth and meeting your target customers. And a lot of the times they bring different avenues, different thoughts to the way and your approach, which is important to your success. So my advice is it's extremely important to have a good sales team early. Invest in that as soon as you get to commercialization, but be careful not to create a sales entity or a salesperson within your team until you're actually ready to sell your product.
That's a very valuable feedback. And let's now change the shift more about developing a sales team. So now at a senior position, when you hire sales talent, what behavior and skill set do you look for in an individual?
Okay, so first of all, when I think of skill set, I think it's important for a business to find a variety of skill sets. And so I don't particularly always try and hone in on a specific skill, as long as the individuals are coming at this in a different way, either from a knowledge of the product and business, or coming from different industries or backgrounds. That skill, the variety of skill within a business helps you have a unique perspective in the way in which your sales team goes to market. What is important to me, and something that you said that's really important, Bilal, is behavior. What I look for when I'm building a sales team is I look for the behavior of the individual, and that's most important to me. Okay, and I try and break it out into three key focuses of when I'm looking for sales individuals. The first focus I look for is is that individual who I'm bringing into the sales team personally accountable? What's important, especially in a young business where each individual is key to your success, is that person accountable to themselves? Do they drive themselves and understand that their success is ultimately built on the work they do? And look for and ask questions that drive your understanding of what that person's accountability to themselves looks like. And a lot of the times we don't ask questions about personal accountability, but I think it's important that that behavior is identified. The next one we go to is what I call the sales math. Does a person understand how much activity is involved in sales? No matter if it's a transactional sale to the most complex sales cycles, it all comes down to what that math is. How many connections, how many touches, how many meetings, how many analyses, whatever it may be. If they understand the sales math and what they need to do to be successful, then they're personally accountable, then you're 2/3 of the way there. And then the last one, which is overlooked, and you need to test on this when you're bringing somebody in from a behavior perspective, are they wired to ask for the business? Okay, asking for the business is one of the major reasons that differentiates a great salesperson from the rest of the pack. Can they ask for the business? Do they know how? And is it something that is inherent to them, that they feel like they need to do that? Those are kind of the most important behaviors that I think is important to a successful sales team, Bilal. And so I focus on that, the skills, and the important skills to the success of that job is something that then we build out if it's not already in that individual's capacity.
That's a very thorough response. So once we have a good sales professional in the team, how would you create a healthy work environment in the sales department where people support each other and want to work and succeed as a team rather than as an individual?
So basically, how do we create a healthy work environment?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so first of all, that you're making a key point. How does an organization not just work in an individual capacity, but how do we work as a team to rise the tide? And that really actually comes back to not always having just independent goals. I find that taking a day each week and doing sales activities that are team related and encourage joint sales and encourage working together on projects really helps the team gel and bring themselves together. Now, it's not that there's certain sales individuals out there that aren't lone wolves that still do well by themselves, but it's important overall to the health of the business to make sure that salespeople do activities together. We are a social profession, and we like to interact with people in most cases. And great salespeople love to interact, and it's not always about results, although that's extremely important into the success of a sales team. But it's also about making sure that we're helping each other learn and get better and identifying that piece. So what my advice is pick a day a week, talk as a team, brainstorm as a team, and work together, and go out, sell together, talk to clients together, because you'll learn a lot from each other. Everybody's approach is different, no matter how much you try and stress a specific process. Everybody has their own techniques, their own approach, and it's nice for you to see that it enhances everybody's sales ability.
Mm-hmm. So now we have a good sales team and a healthy work environment. Then becomes the most important part. How do we assess the performance? Usually the performance in sales environment are all about target completion, and that is what majority of the time the senior management looks for. What are your thoughts and suggestions around this?
So measurement is key to success. But measurement and managing targets comes after a couple of key steps that sometimes is overlooked, but is important for a senior leader to look at when building out a great sales team. So first of all, we talked about behaviors. In the beginning, you need to focus on those behaviors that you want and think are going to be successful for the sales individual. Judge them on that activity, those behaviors that they're displaying. Don't initially judge them on their targets right away. Because if they're doing the right work, the right activity, the right behaviors, then you can help them adjust and teach them how to fix their sales cycle if the targets are not aligning. Analyze their key strengths and weaknesses, get to know that individual, address them and make sure that the needed tools are in place. Once that's in place, once you know the behaviors there, that they have the support and coaching they need to become good, once they understand that all the tools are in place and how to use those tools, then drive the targeted accountability. Okay, then transition as a senior sales leader into managing those targets. Because a lot of the time what we don't do is we don't give them everything they need to be successful. Make sure that in your sales team's hand, they have everything they need to be successful, and then manage and measure against targets. And if you do that, if you follow that process, then you'll build a very strong sales team, because they know that you've built the foundation for them to be successful.
Mm-hmm. So now let's talk about future development. With so much automation being done and in the field of technology, in your opinion, how would the sales role look like in the future? And what advice will you give to a person who wants to be a sales professional down the road?
Yeah, absolutely. So my thoughts, I got two thoughts on that, Bilal. First of all, the automation and that piece is already here, right? It's already underway. If you think about the way that you purchase items, the world's largest company being Amazon, a lot of the sales is done online without any real individual interaction. So that automation's already here. So what I would say to individuals is understand that the way that things are growing, there's kind of two components that need to be important to become a sales professional. Number one, sales are going to get more complex, more advice driven, more knowledge driven, because the simple transactional sale piece is going to go away. Example of that is mortgages used to be something you had to go into the bank to see. Now you can renew your mortgage online through a website, and even negotiate with some of the banks that way. So there's no personal interaction, and something that was so paramount and fundamental to each person buying a house now can be done simply through an internet website. So the complexity of the sales cycle, the advice that comes with how to build a business or a personal component, is where sales is going. Because when someone has a lot of key variables and need to decide on those key variables, there's still going to be interaction that needs to occur. Before I move on to the second piece, though, just to take a step back in terms of thoughts, today's date, as of today and previous, if you're becoming a sales professional, you have to get good at your social media tools. You have to be really strong at that, because interactions in terms of the way in which you interact with people, can't just be one channel. You can't just phone people. You can't email people. There's legislation that protects against that. You have to have social media in that bucket also, and you have to be able to provide content that helps educate people. So that complexity is going to happen with roles, and it's already here, excuse me. But you're going to need to also learn and take courses and understand how to analyze a situation in detail, so that your prospect knows the answer to the question they're looking for, but you're able to answer questions that the buyer may not already be apparent to them, so that you can offer solutions to your prospect and find different ways to sell different products, different partners, whatever it may be, to allow you to open yourself up as a sales professional beyond. So advisory, knowledge, and complexity to the sales is where this profession, in my opinion, is going, because the transactional side of sales is automated and will continue to be automated as we go.
Those are great points that you shared for that question. And now I will ask you my last question, which is more around the fun facts, so make it more fun rather than being serious. So what is one fun fact about yourself that helped you succeed in this role?
The fun fact about myself that's helped me succeed in this role, I would particularly say that the fun fact is I'm unique and quirky in the sense that I enjoy when someone disagrees with me. It is I don't mean it in a adversarial way or anything along those lines, but I love the idea of having a discussion and trying to change someone's mind. And that comes from being one of 6 kids and being the youngest of 5 boys and 1 girl. There was a lot of times in which you would need to stand your ground and sell your opinion. And so for me, it's quite an enjoyable and competitive way to live. And I think that's what developed me into enjoying and exciting being sales. Is growing up in a large family of mostly boys made you very competitive overall. And so that would be the unique thing about me and what makes me want to succeed at sales. It's inherent since a very young age.
That's very interesting, and that means negotiation skill is something that you have mastered from a very early age on.
Yeah, you would not fare well in my household if you weren't able to negotiate.
That's very exciting. So you were built for this sales role.
Yeah.
And I had a wonderful time learning from your experiences today, Trevor. Thank you so much for your time today, and it was a pleasure talking with you today.
Thank you, Bilal. And you just a quick plug at the end here. If you're an independent consultant or a small consulting firm listening to this podcast, please go to 50000foot.com and hopefully we'll be able to help you with your business. So thank you, everyone, and I'm looking forward to having you all on the next episode of SkillRanch podcast.